So, thank you all for joining us tonight. I'm Raina Erasmus. I'm the program manager and co-show secretary, and I am joined by our consulting veterinarian, Dr. Shannon Reed. We are doing the arrival exam and makeover horse management webinar tonight to get you all prepped and ready for what's to come in 2 weeks. So that's scary. Um, but just a little housekeeping, I have the chat disabled, so if you have any questions, please use the Q&A feature here in Zoom. This is recorded, so we will post this to YouTube for later viewing as well. But if you have any questions as we are discussing things, please put them in the Q&A chat and we will get to them. We'll take some breaks periodically to answer questions, but we'll probably mostly get to all of them at the end. And with that, I'm just going to jump right into Shannon. If you would like to introduce yourself, your work with the RRP, and your team for the makeover this year.
Okay, thanks, Raina. Like Raina said, I'm Dr. Reed. I go by Shannon around most places with the RRP, and that's because I have a sort of long history with the RRP. I started as a groom for a friend, I think 2015, and was working at a university and doing track work as well. Kind of already was in love with the thoroughbred and what they looked like in rehoming after leaving the track. So I suggested that my friend get a horse. I found her a horse on the track, got it for her, and then I went as her groom. I came as a participant twice. So I showed in, I think, competitive trail the first year with a graded stakes winning horse. And then I did competitive trail on dressage the next year. I use the feedback mechanism that always gets asked for what we can do with the makeover and gave some input, which led to us creating what you are here to talk about today, which is the arrival exam part of things. So started as a groom, then a participant, and then came on as a consulting veterinarian. We did our first arrival exams in 2019. So that's me. The team that we'll be working with right this year, I'm super excited to say we have a lot more veterinarians on board. So hopefully we will whisk through things quickly, although no promises ever till we get on site. And so this year on Monday, we will have 13 teams working, and on Tuesday, there will be 12 teams working. Each will have a veterinarian who's an experienced practitioner and then veterinary students associated with them. So the veterinary students will be helping with the exam and doing a lot of the hands-on portion. The veterinarian will be talking them through it. If there's anything that needs to be done on specific courses that's maybe not for the vet students to do, they'll step in, they'll be checking everything with them. They may be having conversations with you about your horse, and a little bit of teaching will be going on as well at the same time. So you will have a team coming to you that consists of a veterinarian and students for most of the exams. And those students are students that are thinking they are interested in equine, but they are not fully committed crazy horse girls all completely yet, or guys. So we want to bring them on board and show them that veterinary medicine and equine is a good thing to do.
Awesome. Thank you, Shannon. Super excited for all the vets and vet students this year. And as Dr. Reed started to touch on with the vet students, please be the most amazing stewards of the breed and of horse people in general to help convince these vet students to come on over to equine med, because we certainly need more of them. And just give them a great experience. I mean, they're all super excited to be there, and they'll want to hear about your horses. So feel free to yap at them. It's a good opportunity to get to do that to someone that actually wants to listen.
Yeah, they definitely want to hear everything about everything you're about your horse. They are all on for that.
So let's move on into the arrival exam itself. Starting off in the beginning of the week, Monday and Tuesday are when arrival exams will happen. Your first step is going to be to come to me over at Rider Check-in. That's without your horse, just you as your person. But when you do come to Rider Check-in, your horse should be on site, either in the stall or if you're shipping in their trailer, ready for their arrival exam. So Monday, probably starting about 12:30 is when we're going to open check-in. And that'll be open, I think, until 5. You'll check your newsletter to double check that. So 12:30 to 5 is going to be your check-in window on Monday. And on Tuesday, we'll open bright and early at 8 a.m. and be open until I think 4. So come over to check in. We're going to make sure that your health documents, your horse's health documents are in the portal. If they're not in the portal, so do that now, I will send you to the back of the line and tell you to get on the website and upload your documents ahead of time. That way you're not holding up the line while we're trying to get everything uploaded on the website. Better to do it before you get to the horse park grounds. That's in the trainer portal. Email me if you have any questions, but that's going to be your Coggins. That must be done within 12 months of your arrival. Your health certificate, which if you're out of state, that's within 30 days of your arrival. And your horses, and if you're in state, it just needs to be done within the past 12 months. Um, and then your proof of EHV1 vaccination, which needed to be done as of yesterday. So the horse must have been vaccinated against EHV1 between April 6th and September 22nd. They cannot be vaccinated after September 22nd. So please, if they've been vaccinated within that window, if you have fall shots scheduled between now and the makeover, please skip that one and have that done when you return. You need to have proof from a veterinarian that the vaccination was administered. A Tractor Supply receipt is not going to cut it, so please check the rule book for proper forms of documentation. So that's the health paperwork. You come in, check in, tell us your horse is on the grounds, ready for the arrival exam. We check over the paperwork just to make sure it's there. I am not part of the vet team, so I am not checking to make sure it's accurate. I'm just checking to make sure I see a Coggins, I see a health cert, and I see proof of vaccination. Once that's all in, I might ask you some other check-in related questions that we don't need to go over today. But then your horse will be checked in and in a queue for the arrival exam. And so that's where I'm going to pass it off to Dr. Reed to tell us a little bit about what the actual arrival exam process looks like, what you and your horse will experience during the arrival exam.
Okay, great. Thank you. So what it's going to look like is the veterinarians are all going to have an iPad that logs them into the vet system. And when the horses enter the queue, it comes across with a timestamp of when they entered the queue. So this year, the veterinarians are going to be going to the horse that has the oldest open queue. So if you are 25 minutes out, and you're the one that's been waiting the longest, the next vet is going to head to your horse. So first point is try not to grab vets that are walking by and say you're ready for your exam. You can check in the trainer's portal where you are in the queue, and we have an alarm set to go off if someone's waiting more than 45 minutes to bump things up and people monitoring that. So this year we're going by timestamps and we're going directly to the horse's stall that has the oldest timestamp and working through them in that direction. If a trainer has more than one horse in stalls, we'll probably do those all together because they checked in together with that trainer. So we're not going to be splitting up groups of horses that come in with the same trainer. So the first part of the exam, we're going to call it part 1, which is the basic physical exam. That happens at your horse's stall. We found out that they behave much better if they're in their stall. They're used to that at the track. So they're going to come to you. We would like to have someone there to handle the horse that has experience handling horses. So don't leave the neighbor's 9-year-old kid to hold the horse for us. We do want someone there who can hold the horse and have some experience to that. And here's the parts to part 1. Vet's going to come to you and they're going to talk to you about your horse. They may be saying, tell us about them. And that's your opportunity to tell a little bit about the history. If you know anything about the horse you think is relevant to the exam, we like to know those things. It helps with our interpretation. And so they're going to chat with you about the horse. And then they're going to do a hands-on physical exam. They should be wearing gloves or have just used hand sanitizer to keep them from moving things from horse to horse. The physical exam starts with the basic, what we call TPR, temperature, pulse, and respiration. There are some parameters set for that. And the temperature has to be less than 102.5 for us to allow your horse to enter on. So that's the first marker. If your horse does happen to have a temperature of 102.5 and it's a hot day, we have a plan for that. And the vet's going to tell you what to do. It's basically going to consist of staying in your stall, using a fan, cooling things, and rechecks. But we just don't want you wandering around the grounds if your horse arrived with a high temp. So there's a plan for that if that's what happens. They'll take a pulse and a respiration, and they'll be putting their hands on the horse and feeling for lumps, bumps, bruises, things like that. If something is what we call old and cold, meaning you have a tendon that is thickened, but it's not painful to palpation, it seems chronic, the veterinarians know how to interpret that. So you can certainly give them some information, but you don't have to be necessarily super concerned because something looks different than the pristine 3-year-old quarter horse who's never done anything. We have some awareness to that. So they're going to feel for lumps and bumps, and what they're going to be looking for is something we call clinically significant, which takes a level to rise to that there's something off on there. They also will be doing a microchip check. You guys should all know about your microchips, have them entered in the computer's trainer portal and with the jockey club so they match. They're going to be checking for that with the microchips. And then, so TPR, lumps and bumps, microchip checks. And then the last thing they're going to be doing is a body condition score. And I will tell you that we have a very scientifically proven system for doing body condition score that interprets the entire horse. It's not just the ribs, it's not just the butt, it's multiple pieces of the horse. If your horse is clearly a 5 or above, they may be doing the body condition score a little bit brief, like a brief run of the hands and an overall scoring, and say this horse is a 6. And if your horse is closer on the line, they're going to be going through and doing the entire conditioning and giving a very specific answer to the body condition score. And so just be aware, it's not just one part of the horse. There's 6 areas of the horse. They all have their individual scoring, and they should be at least putting their hands on the horse in some form or another to get there. So the other thing I would ask is when we come to your exam, horses should not be clothed in any way other than bell boots. So they shouldn't be wearing 16 sheets and a blanket and leg wraps. Those all need to come off for the actual exam, please. So halter, lead rope, and bell boots are okay, and that's about it. If your horse needs a shank, you should put a shank on your horse. If your horse actually behaves best in the bridle, put them in a bridle in the stall for that part of it. So that is going to be the basic exam in the stall. As I said again, TPR, lumps and bumps, microchip check, BCS score. And when they're listening to the heart, they're not just listening for what the heart rate is, they're listening for a regular rhythm and to make sure everything's okay with that. A lot of these horses are going to have shipped in from far away, so we're listening to their lung sounds, make sure they don't have any coughing, anything like that. So that is part 1 of the exam. Should I move on to part 2, Raina?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So once you're done with part 1, then you can head over to the soundness check. You don't get your sticker as having completed the arrival exam until you pass the soundness check. But if you need a second before you head over to soundness from when you did part 1, you do have a few minutes, or if it's backed up a little bit at soundness, you can come back. But the soundness exam is going to be in the area of barns 1 through 4. You would take your horse down there on a shank or a lead rope or a bridle that helps you to control them when they are walking around other horses. They can be in bell boots, but they also shouldn't. If you come down there in a sheet or a blanket or something like that, it'll have to come off for the actual soundness check, because we need to be able to watch their pelvis move and their neck move and things like that. So you'll come down to barns 1 through 4. There'll be a 1 or 2 or 3 lines moving for that. Your horse will get in the line, and a vet student will take your bridle number. They'll open up the computer list. You'll come up to the front and we will watch your horse walk. It's going to be on a hard surface. Okay, so it's only at a walk. And if your horse needs hoof boots to move on a hard surface, so scoot boots or something like that, have them on for the soundness check if they are barefoot. If they're like rock solid feet on barefoot, that's okay. You don't have to have boots on, but just be aware it's a hard surface, and that's on purpose, because all you're going to do is walk. You're going to walk down and back a specific distance from the veterinary team, and you're going to turn a circle, which will help coach you through at the time at the walk to allow us to evaluate your horse. Is it sound enough to move about the property comfortably? If you pass that part, you'll get a sticker that goes on your bridle tag and on your back tag. So you'll get 2 stickers, and then you are ready to go.
Sweet. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. So a couple things to add here about the arrival exam process. One is that it is technically allowed for you to ride before you have done your arrival exam. However, most likely, especially with the number of vet teams that we have this year, you're not going to have time to. They're coming directly to your stall. So please be there waiting or have someone else there waiting to represent your horse when the vets will be there. If there is a super long backlog that the vets are dealing with, that's likely something I'm going to tell you at check-in. So if you do have an hour or something like that, I can tell you that when you guys come to check in. So please don't plan on checking in and then going to ride and then waiting to get your arrival exam done. The vets will come to your stall and you won't be there, and then they're going to have to bump you down to the bottom of the list. Um, Anything to add on that one, Shannon?
No.
Nope. Okay. So, end of moral of the story there is please just be at your stall and ready for the arrival exam after you've checked in. If
And
you're
people will come in, they'll unpack, they'll settle for a second and not go check in. So you can't get on your horse until you have a bridle tag.
Yep.
But you don't have to check in like the moment you get off the trailer and your horse is not in the stall. You should get them unloaded. You should
Right.
get them some water. They should have a minute, and then you should go to the actual check-in process.
Yeah. Yeah. So if your horse needs a minute, don't chuck them off the trailer and then come immediately running over to check in. Give them whatever time they need in the stall. They can't leave the stall yet because they don't have the tag. But take their time. Once you're ready for the exam, come on over to check in. If you're shipping in, so if you're not stabling at the horse park, there's not a stall for the vets to meet you at. So what you're going to do is you're going to go ahead and take your trailer over to day trailer parking. Um, if you don't want to leave your horse on the trailer alone while you walk over to rider check-in, maybe bring somebody with you to watch your horse, or bring someone with you to go check in for you while you stay with your horse. Either way, you as your person, no horse with you, is going to come to rider check-in, get that done, and then you're going to take your horse and walk over to barns 1 through 4 where they're doing these soundness exams. So you're going to do both parts of your arrival exam over at barns 1 through 4. Anything to add with ship-ins, Shannon?
Yeah, just make sure you really clearly tell the person at barn 1 through 4 that you're here for the entire exam. And then we'll put you into an empty stall so that your horse can have some quiet, but they might be a little confused and try to slot you over to lameness, and you'll just have to, or soundness, sorry, soundness check. You'll just have to tell them that you're here for the entire exam.
Perfect. Thank you. And I know we have some people that like to ride over, whether they're over at Secretariat Center. Keep in mind that that can really jazz some horses up riding over. So if that's your plan, maybe give yourself
Reconsider.
some, yeah, consider maybe a different plan for arrival exam day at least. Um, or build in some time to let your horse cool down. You're going to need to untack them for the exam, so think about that. Um, think that's all for ship-ins. Let's see here. Dr. Reed did touch on this. You will be getting blue stickers after you've completed both portions of the exam. You cannot compete until you've received your blue stickers. Our ring stewards, will be checking for those on competition day. So when Dr. Reed or whatever vet completes your soundness exam and gives you those blue stickers, make sure you put one on your horse's bridle number and on their back number. You will not be permitted in the ring without those. All right. And so let's move on to what happens if the horse does not pass the first go at either portion of the arrival exam.
Okay, happy to do that. Before I do, one thing I do want to bring up, if you're coming to the soundness check, it's nice if we love kids and flip-flops. But if you come with your horse and a kid strapped to the front of you and the back of you and flip-flops, it does make our vet heart a little bit nervous. So if you have a lot going on, bring someone with you to walk the horse for you, or if you yourself have a lameness issue, you're welcome to bring someone else. But come down there in what would be somewhat pony club approved shoes or something like that, and a safe situation where you can have both hands on your horse's lead rope appropriately, if I don't mind throwing in that small tag. Okay, so if you didn't pass, first of all, this is not a moment to like freak out, start throwing down and get fired up, because we have a lot of checks and balances built into the system to make it as fair as we possibly can make it. And so if there's anything in that part 1 of the exam that your horse doesn't pass on, that could be like a bump or blemish or something like that, that the vet felt was going to impede soundness clearly, a laceration, things like that. Or if it was body condition score, or if it was a temp check, all of those things are in the first part of the exam. If you don't pass in that first part of the exam, the first thing is they'll let you know that you need to have a recheck exam, and they're going to give you a card, and that card tells you who to contact and how. So there's a number for the secretary on there. They will set up a time with you that's going to work for you to get your recheck exam done. We do ask that if your horse didn't pass the first time, that you don't get on and ride about the park. That's not a great idea. You want to keep them in a hand grazing, or you may even be told not to leave the stall if it's a temp elevation, but we'll deal with that separately. But you're going to get a card. You're going to contact the show secretary on the card. We're going to set up a time for a different veterinarian than did the first exam to come to your horse again. They're not going to know the reason that the horse didn't pass the first time. So they are blinded. So I need you to be patient with them, because they're going to do the whole thing again. They're going to talk to you about, hey, what does your horse do for a living? I'm going to look for a microchip. I'm going to check all of the paperwork. And that's not to piss you off. It's to make it fair that the next person is totally blinded to the situation and they're creating a new opinion. And if that horse doesn't pass, then there is still a third exam that would occur, that would also be arranged through the secretary's office, and that would be with a third vet who's likely a boarded specialist in either medicine or surgery, and they would be meeting with the steward and again doing a blinded exam from the beginning. So you have some really strict parameters to keep it as fair as we can for the horses that are involved in a no pass process. If you pass the first part of the exam and then don't pass the soundness part of the exam, we have that conversation right then and there. You will need to have a recheck, and it will be similar, but we may say, hey, why don't you go hand walk your horse for an hour? Why don't we do this? Maybe you could try this and then come back to us. So there might be a little bit more conversation about some suggestions there, but the same type of thing occurs. We try to make you not come back to the same vet for the soundness check if you didn't pass that part. And if you didn't pass a third time, that a steward would be present for that part of the exam. That's the basics of if you did not pass. I guess I would leave that to you, Raina, to see if we need to add anything extra to that one.
Sure. Yeah. So I think one thing I will add is when you do receive the card, which will have my number on it, and it'll essentially tell you, hey, please text me with your name, your horse's name and bridle number, and your availability for a recheck. While I want you to text me as soon as possible, your availability for a recheck does not have to be as soon as possible. If it's something like a temperature, or some other situation, a blemish of some kind that might need a couple hours to chill out, you don't need to say, I want my next exam done in 10 minutes. You can say, hey, if it's Monday, you can even say, hey, can I do my recheck tomorrow? Can I do my recheck in 4 hours? Whatever it is, as long as it's within the hours that the arrival exams will be performed, that's totally fine. You can take your time. If it's something that's not going to change, like body condition score, if you are able to schedule that as soon as possible, that would be better. It's just going to make it easier on everyone to get it done as soon as possible. However, if it's something where it's in the best interest of your horse to wait and not get it done, get your recheck done right away, as long as you contact me right away, we have a little bit of flexibility as to when we can do that recheck. Would you agree with that, Dr. Reed?
Yeah, we really try to set you up for success.
Yeah. And as Dr. Reed was talking about, you get essentially 3 chances to pass the arrival exam. And the vets are not here to fail you. They want everyone to compete. They want everyone to have a good time. So please be patient, kind, and courteous. We do everything in our power to be very fair with you all. But I will say, if after 3 rechecks or 2 rechecks, your horse doesn't pass, that is not a protestable ruling. Veterinary decisions are non-protestable. They are final. It is something that we hope to not have to deal with, but I just want to make it very clear that if your horse does not pass the arrival exam, that is not something you can protest. It will be final and your horse will not be permitted to compete. Depending on the reason that your horse doesn't pass, most likely you're still going to be able to stay on the grounds. If it's something like temperature, something where they're worried that your horse might have something that could be contagious, then they will be put in a quarantine stall and you will likely be asked to remove them from the premises as soon as possible. But other than that, you will be permitted to stay on the grounds. And for a lot of them, you could still probably ride around, if it's low body condition score or lameness, something like that, like probably not. But other than that, you'll still be there and be able to participate as in the event, just you won't be able to compete with that horse. And I did have a note on here, Dr. Reed, if we could talk a little bit about body condition score specifically. If someone at this stage is worried about their horse's weight, what could they do? They're probably not going to be able to change their horse's body condition score in the next 2 weeks, but what could they do to have a better idea of where their horse is truly at?
Well, there's a couple things that I would suggest. The first is if you are worried, within the handbook, like the rule book and on the trainer portals, and you can even just Google Henneke body condition score, and it has a formalized form that has a horse on it and a system. I would pay for a vet visit to come out and ask the veterinarian to do the exact Henneke exam, put their hands on the horse, circle things. And if they're like, this horse is below a 4 solidly, that's when you reconsider if that's the time for your horse and you to make it to the makeover. So that's the first thing, is just have a vet look at them. And if the vet is like, you're hyperventilating for no reason, go on with your bad self, that can help. If they say your horse is a 4, but you don't have a lot of wiggle room, that's when you talk to them about, how do I set this horse up for success? So it's actually really unusual. And I don't think I've ever seen it happen other than like a muscle wasting syndrome. That's really unheard of for a horse to drop a body condition score because of transport for less than 3 days. What they can change is water weight, and that can be put back on pretty quickly. But as far as body condition scores, if you're coming into it with a horse that's borderline, that's when you talk to your vet. Should I be traveling on GastroGuard or UlcerGuard? What can I do in the trailer to help keep them eating? What do you think about this horse eating alfalfa while they're at the show? How do I set them up for success while at the show? So it is in your hauling, you kind of keep that to, I was going to haul straight through for 18 hours. Now I think I'm going to stop and we're going to do a layover for 12. We're going to make sure we have a lot of eating and snacking, and then we're going to get on the road. So if you know you have a horse that's borderline, maybe you decide, what, I'm not going to train them anything new in the last 2 weeks. So we're going to drop to maintenance work only. We're going to try and keep it light, and we're going to really set them up for success for trailering. So that's the other thing, is if you're a borderline 4, you certainly don't want to lose in that 2 weeks, because you could lose a body condition score in the 2 weeks up to the makeover particularly if you yourself are getting stressy and ulcery and all of those things, and that goes towards your horse. Maybe that's the time to actually drop back a little. Don't go to the last show right beforehand for prep work. So we would recommend that if you're worried, get your vet to do the body condition score for you. If you are below it, just don't put them on the trailer. Save yourself that time, because it doesn't matter if you come there and you say, well, my vet said they're a 3.5, but that's okay because they're young and growing. It's not. They got to be a 4. So if you're over a 4 and you're close, then you talk about what could help them set them up for stomach success, as far as GastroGuard or UlcerGuard or whatever your choice is for preventing ulcers. How are you going to feed them on the trailer? How are you going to ship? How can you drop their schedule down to support them to continue gaining weight before you get there?
Perfect. Thank you. I'm going to pause just a second here and go through our questions. So this one we already answered, but just in case you missed it, Keegan asked, if we are hauling in, where will the vet meet us? So easy answer to that is you will meet the vet at barns 1 through 4 if you are just a ship in. So you'll park your trailer over at day trailer parking, come to rider check-in, get that process completed, then go retrieve your horse from day trailer parking and head on over to barns 1 through 4 to complete both phases of your arrival exam. And like Dr. Reed mentioned, please specify to the vet team that you are a ship-in and you need to perform both phases of the arrival exam. And then the next question is, do companion horses need to complete this process as well? No, they do not. Companion horses do need to have the health documents that meet all the same criteria. So same dates on Coggins, health cert, and proof of vaccination. And we will be checking that at check-in, but they will not be going through the arrival exam process. Now, if you are bringing a graduate and participating in the graduate clinics, the horse will not go through the arrival exam. However, if we see a horse that is supposed to be riding in the clinics that we believe would not pass the arrival exam, we do reserve the right to call over our vet team and have them perform that arrival exam. And if the horse would not have passed the arrival exam, they will not be permitted to compete in the clinics. And that's all in the fine print of the clinic registration as well. Will there be a farrier on the premises if your horse pulls a shoe? Yes, there will be. That is Jeremiah, and his information is on our website. It will be on the schedule. He will be on call Monday, Tuesday, and then will be on site like all day, every day for the rest of the week. Laura says, so we arrive at the horse park, go straight to rider check-in, and then take our horse slash trailer to our assigned stall and unload? No. So you're going to arrive to the horse park. You're going to first unload, get your horse all set up. Once your horse is set up and ready in their stall, then you will take yourself to rider check-in, and then the vets will meet you at your assigned stall.
And
So
you'll know before you get there what your stall number is. So you're not
yes.
going to be, you're going to have an email about that. Just let everybody know when we start to panic. You'll know before you arrive, right, Raina?
Yes, you'll know this week. So you will know with plenty of advance notice where your horse's stall will be. And that way you'll know where to go when you get there. And we will also ask you during the check-in process, hey, is your horse on the grounds and ready for their arrival exam? So we will give you a moment where if someone messes it up and they're like, oh, well, I mean, he's here, but he's sitting on the trailer. I'll be like, why don't you go and get your horse ready and then come back and check in. So if you mess up the order of things, don't worry about it. We'll make sure you get all set up. But if you're here now listening, just try to remember to go get your horse set up first and then come complete rider check-in. All right, let's see here. And we're going to move on from arrival exams here for a minute, and we're going to talk about the championship jog process. So the top 10 horses from every single discipline will be competing in our discipline championships on Saturday. But before they are permitted to compete in the championships on Saturday, they must first go through the jog process. So I'm going to turn it back over to Dr. Reed to talk about the jog process and how that all works.
Okay, so if you have made it to the championship, you will get notification and there will be a meeting that sort of goes over to tell you how all things work that you'll be invited to and everybody has to attend, and we will go over this then. So you do not have to remember this at that time, but we're just giving you a little bit of a heads up so that you can prepare now. Because if you've never done jogs before, it's good to watch a couple of YouTubes or Googles and see what it looks like, because you do not have to dress up, but dressing up is nice. There will be a lot of pictures there, and sometimes it's your chance to strut your stuff. So we do want your horse to come to the jogs in an appropriate head stall for controlling them for the jogs. And that looks like a bridle for a lot of people. We don't recommend non-snaffle bridles. So if you're showing in a Basel or a shank bit for some discipline, that should not be the bridle you bring down for the jogs. You'll want to go in a halter, and a rope and halter would probably be fine if that's what your horse is used to, or if you want to use a dressy leather one, that's okay. And again, bridles are helpful for the English disciplines when they have a snaffle that you can hold them out, but don't the Bosels and the shanks tend to interfere with head motion a bit when someone is jogging them. So we want to come down and appropriate. If your horse needs a chain, please bring them in a chain for that part of it. So what's going to happen is I don't know right now, we haven't confirmed the exact location, but you will know at the time where it's going to be. It's going to be on footing that is similar to what you are showing on, but that footing will be packed a bit so that it is a little bit firmer, but it is not on asphalt. Okay, so you are on appropriate footing to jog a horse across. There will be a lane that will be well defined that we will say, trot down to those flowers, go around them and come back to us. The Jogs, it says jogs as if it was a leisurely pace. It is a go. It is a trot briskly. If you jog your horse slowly, it will get discombobulated and it will look difficult to the vet to pick out whether or not it has asymmetry. So it is a brisk trot that you are achieving. If you cannot achieve that on your own, or you're so nervous you're going to puke, you can send someone else to do your jogs. I would go with your horse, but another person can handle your horse for the jogs. You will line up, they'll tell you where to do it. We will walk around your horse and just do a check of symmetry and look for joint puffiness or things like that. You'll get clear directions about when to trot off and how to come back. Two veterinarians will watch that exam and discuss amongst themselves what their findings are. The stewards may have some input, as well as myself being as the third person. So if you jog and it's like just your horse is all over the place, crazy pants, we might say, okay, well, why don't we try that again? So we will use our discretion to ask you to jog again for behavior, nervousness issues, things like that. So you may be asked to jog once, more than once at the first time, because things happen with horses. So after you come back to the end, you'll be either sent to a hold. So someone say you're going to hold. And at that point, we will direct you where to go. It's to a specific area that you can't really leave. You're going to stay in that area, and you're going to, you can check out your horse and look at them. You can't give them any medications or anything in that hold area. And then if you are sent to hold, you'll be brought back down a few horses later. If they tell you you passed, you just move on. You're done. If you are in the hold and you come back and you represent, that's what it's called when you bring your horse down, you can chat with the stewards. If you're like, I really think it's this bridle I have, can I change to that halter? In the hold area, you can ask and they'll give you permission one way or the other for that. If a veterinarian gives you a suggestion about how to trot your horse, you should take it. If we ask you to change out your head stall, unless it's a safety issue, you should consider that. If it's an issue for behavior, we can talk about that. So if for some reason you get what we call spun, meaning you went to hold, you came back and your horse is still defined as being lame, then this year you can speak with a steward and immediately ask for a formalized objective lameness evaluation. That comes, or I guess we weren't calling it protest. Help me out what we're calling that. Maybe it is a protest.
It's just the lameness evaluator fee.
Yeah.
And it's completely optional. So they can either accept the vet team's ruling and understand that they will not be competing in the championship, or if they'd like to give it another go, they can pay us $100 and I will turn it back to you.
Okay. So here's what's going to happen. If you decide that you don't agree with that and you want to pay the $100, you're going to be taken back over to the hold area, and we're going to hook your horse up with a objective lameness evaluation system called the equinosis. It is a sensor that will go on the horse's butt and on their leg and on their halter, nothing invasive to the horse at all. The computer system will run while the horse is trotting down and back twice. It will spit out a report, and the report will give us an evaluation. Are they baseline sound, or are they lame? And if they are lame on the Equinosis lameness locator system, that's it. Final version. If they are sound by the lameness locator system, then they would be allowed to compete and the $100 fee would be returned.
And I will add with that too, whether you choose to do the lameness evaluator or not, whether you choose to do it and your horse then still doesn't pass, or regardless, if you are not permitted to compete in the championship, that doesn't mean that you lose out on your placing entirely. It doesn't mean that you are out of the prize money. We have it written in the rule book. You will essentially finish on your preliminary competition score, and wherever that lands you after the finale competition in the placings, which will still be within the top 10, you will receive the appropriate prize money for that. So, most likely if there are, let's take show hunters, for example, where there is very likely to be 10 horses that make it to the championship. If one or two of those horses do not pass the jogs and are not permitted to compete, they will finish in 9th and 10th place respectively. and they will receive the prize money for that. So you will not be like completely out from that, and you will still receive your preliminary placing competition ribbon. So plenty to celebrate there. But definitely keep in mind the lameness evaluator fee, and that is non-refundable if your horse is not deemed sound by that tool. And it is also optional if you are willing to take the vet's word for it, which I personally would suggest you do. Then you do not have to pay the $100, and you can just take your horse back to their stall rather than risk losing out on the $100. And then let's see here. I think that's it when it comes to jogs. You covered head stalls. I do think we have a video on our YouTube of how to properly jog your horse.
We do.
And we talked a little bit yesterday, Shannon, that if you've never jogged a horse before, you can practice now. Even if maybe you'll be setting yourself up for success, and that'll mean that you'll get into the championship. So, if you've never jogged a horse in hand before, go ahead, practice, watch some YouTube videos, like learn that you really gotta like trot off, not a Western jog. Let's see here. Okay, so I think we're done with jogs. Now we have horse makeover management. So, Dr. Reed, what are some tips and tricks that our competitors should keep in mind to keep their horses happy and healthy throughout the week of the makeover?
Thank you for asking, Raina. Okay, so the first thing we want to focus on is biosecurity, right? And what I mean by that is keeping your horse safe from diseases that are around them. And just like if you got on an airplane and you sit next to the guy that's coughing the whole time, chances are when you arrive at your destination within 48 hours, you are going to be coughing too. So we want to think about these guys as a little bit like horses. They're all on the airplane together, all right? So we would like you to not share buckets of water with other horses unless it's so hot that the higher risk is to not having water than to sharing a bucket. So you want to use your own bucket for your own horse. You want to take your hose, and if you're sharing a hose, instead of dipping the hose from one bucket to the next, you actually want to hold the hose out of the water because the hose can move things, secretions from one bucket to the next to the next. So you're going to use your own buckets. You're going to either use your own hose or run it from outside of the bucket. I know everyone wants their horses to meet each other or see each other again, or maybe they raced in a stakes race. Like my horse, Nate Spineshaft, was literally stabled next to Mr. Mardi Gras, and the two of them had run for a long time together down. So they knew each other immediately. But we didn't want to have a nose snogging reunion between those two horses where they are touching each other nose to nose and doing things because they hauled in from two separate places. They're bringing two separate kindergarten germs with them. So try to avoid a lot of nose to nose contact and allowance of touching of horses touching each other. That's just good practices. Try not to share tack if possible, or wipe off and clean the tack before doing that. That type of thing will really help you out. So the first is just biosecurity. Think about it as these guys have all gone to kindergarten and they're coming home to your house and they're going to spread around whatever they can. So that's the first thing. The second thing is if your horse needs something that is specific to them, bring it with them. So if they have a hay that they need or a grain that they need, or they are sensitive to changes, bring everything you need to get through the few days and the ride home with you. I would suggest that you realize that this is a really long event, okay? These horses, sure, maybe some of them have been showing, but you can't stay on their back every day, all day, riding out with your friends, schooling, and then getting on their back and then hacking around the horse park and then realize that you spent 3 or 4 days every hour in the saddle and have your horse be sound. There's a lot going on and you want to participate in it, but you also have to look at what the week looks like for the horse. The horse park has horse paths and we want you on it, but we want you on it because everything else is asphalt and concrete. So they're going to spend a fair amount of time going from the barn to the horse path. And that is on concrete. It's hard on them. So stay on the horse path, get to them as much as you can. Do realize that they are bedded on asphalt. You can rent mats, or there's a bunch of stuff on the trainer's Facebook page about how to bed those stalls if you don't have mats. If your horse is a horse that needs their feet packed, then you should pack their feet in the stalls. If your horse has never had their feet packed before, now is not the time to try. So you want to keep some things the same in their routine as well while they are there. If they have a saddle that fits them, that should be the saddle you use while you're there. Maybe you want to get it checked by the saddle fitter and don't make any major changes unless there's a problem. We highly recommend that you bring several saddle pads, because if you're going to be on them 3 or 4 times a day, we've actually seen horses that had good fitting saddles that started to get saddle sores because they were wearing the same pad and sweat and things like that. Do check the weather the day you're going to leave and have your horse arrive in a coat that works for them while they are there. So if you are shipping down from Canada and Kentucky is going to be 72 degrees, you may choose the body clip to help your horse out, and then you bring a sheet or a stable blanket for nighttime. If you are coming from Arizona and all of a sudden Kentucky is going to be 45 degrees, you're going to want to bring some blankets with you so that you can help keep them from shivering at night and getting muscle sore to that. So check the weather, have them come body clipped if they need it, and plan on blanket, because it's going to be some days really hot and you want to make sure that they have that for them. So we talked about being conscientious of how much you're on your horse, being conscientious of they're in the stall. And if you haven't rented a round pen, that's totally fine. But you do want to hand walk. You do want to hand graze. The people that don't do well is those that stay on their horse all day long and then shut them in the stall at 5 o'clock and come back the next morning. Another thing we'd highly recommend, if you haven't checked it out, is to do Elaine's night check. She's in the Facebook page and in some other resources that were emailed to you. It's called Night Watch. She will feed your horse breakfast in the morning. She will check its water all night long. She will throw hay to them if you want them to. And she's caught several things for me, like, hey, your horse's blanket was halfway off. I just took it off and she texts me, or I put it back on. So consider using Night Watch. I think it's like $12 to $15 a night, and man, it's worth it. There is no reason to keep water away from these horses. If we see horses in stalls without water, we're going to text you and be like, hey, did you know this was happening? Now is not the time to be cheap on forage. So even if the show hay, you have to buy it there and it's $29 for a bale, you're going to save yourself money by keeping the hay in front of them while they're there. If your horse is barefoot and you walk them across asphalt or rocks and they are uncomfortable, you're going to be competing on good footing, but you should consider purchasing a boot system for walking around the park so they don't get foot sore while they're getting to the softer arenas. That's the gist of what I can think about. If you're real nervous and you want to set your horse up for success, there are a lot of trainers that will do lessons or will come watch you and set rails for you and do, I think, some psychological calm downs of the rider. So you can set your horse up for success for asking for help from other trainers while you're there as well.
Awesome. Thank you. Let's see. What I want to touch on a little bit more, you already spoke about how all the stalls at the horse park are on asphalt, on concrete. I saw a little bit in the trainers group a couple days ago that people were surprised about that. They are on concrete. And so everybody has their different methods of bedding. Some people like to bring their own stall mats. Some people like to buy those cheap puzzle pieces and use those as stall mats. Some people rent them from Deaver. Other people bed deep. Dr. Reed, what's your preferred bedding method at the Kentucky Horse Park?
Oh, thank you for asking me. I take my little horse and trailer before I arrive at the park because I'm usually hauling from far away and I don't want to pay gas to haul this with me. And I go to the Tractor Supply that's 15 minutes away. And I pick up the pelleted wood bedding, and I get about 8 bags for every stall that I have. And I put the pellets down first and I wet them, and then they create this really nice mat of like sawdust, and then I put regular shavings on top of that. And if you want to check my credentials, we will bed like 2,500-pound neurologic bulls on those bedding pine, and it will keep them from banging themselves up while they're dragging along the ground. So doing the pelleted shavings, but wetting them until they become that ultra fine as you're packing, and then put your shavings on top of it, really helps me out.
Awesome. Thank you. You already spoke about biosecurity. Don't override your horses. Keep clean saddle pads. We talked a little bit about She talked a little bit about temperature swings and look ahead of time. Also prepare that it is October in Kentucky and we will probably experience all 4 seasons the week of the makeover. So even if it looks like it's going to be relatively, you know, warm, not too bad, pack a cooler and a sheet just in case. Just keep yourself ready. If it looks like it's going to be super hot, like Dr. Reed said, you might want to consider clipping your horse. But take a look at the temperature and also expect it to change. um, we talked about Night Watch by Elaine. She is, in fact, in the trainers group. If you can't find her, send me an email and I'll gladly get you hooked up with her. She is fantastic. I know not only has she caught some blankets, she's caught some horses that were colicking like this. And it also means that you can sleep in. You don't
Mm-hmm.
have to be there bright and early to feed your horse. You don't have to do night check yourself. Elaine will do all of those things, and she is very, very economically priced. So,
I've
highly
also found
recommend.
that, yeah, there are some really early risers and they start feeding. So if I usually get up at 5 o'clock my time, and that's an hour earlier than Kentucky, and I'm feeding my horse at 5 o'clock, and your horse is in the same barn, it's really nice if Elaine is also feeding them. Because if you don't get there till 7 and that feels early to you, your horse is going to have stress for 2 hours that someone else was feeding them. So it's just a thought
Yeah.
to have, either maybe coordinate amongst the people that are in your area, like, hey, if I leave my feed in front of my stall and you get here first today, can you feed it and I'll do yours tomorrow? So just think about, they are used to, these guys are going to flash back to their track days, and at the track everybody was fed down the row.
Right. Exactly. All right. And then the last thing I have on the makeover management side of things was discipline combinations. Some of them are a bit more strenuous than others. Um, Generally, obviously, keep your horse's endurance in mind, check in throughout both days of competition. How are they holding up? If you are doing field hunters and eventing, those are two pretty strenuous disciplines. If you're doing them on the same horse, definitely make sure that you are just keeping a good eye on your horse and how they are adapting to that situation. Um, I personally try to schedule those of you that are doing field hunters and another discipline on the same horse, where you get all of your field hunter ride times done first, and then you have your second discipline. So you can at least complete all of field hunters and then decide, is my horse fit enough? Is my horse comfortable enough to continue on with a second discipline? Or should I just scratch my second discipline and give my horse a big cookie and hopefully make it to the discipline championships? Do you have anything to add about discipline combinations and how people should handle that?
No, I think you hit it all. Besides, like, man, you better have a horse that's really pretty fit if you're going to do field hunters and eventing both.
Yeah. Yeah. We have changed the format for eventing, so it's 2 phases now, so it's a little less, but it's still a lot. So please keep that in mind. Um, let's see here. Dr. Reed did talk a bit about hand walking. I have just a general note here from my coworker, Kristen Bentley, whose horses are not stalled and who has done the makeover herself. Um, Hopefully, you've already taken your horse to an overnight show if you keep your horses out 24/7 at home and you know how they will do in a stall. If you don't, I would highly suggest one, being ready to hand walk and hand graze for a good portion of the week to keep your horse occupied. Two, maybe look into booking a layover facility. There are tons of layover facilities in the area. You can choose to either take your horses back there at night and they can stay in a field at night, and then you can bring them to the horse park in the morning and they stay at their stall throughout the day. However you want to do that, or you take them to the layover facility for just a couple hours, whatever seems to work best for your horse. There are also round pens. Those are the rentals for that are all booked up. That's not something that we control. That's through Deaver. That books way in advance of the makeover. However, many of your fellow competitors have probably already have managed to snag a round pen and might be willing to share some round pen time with you. So you can get into the trainers group and see if you can coordinate some round pen share. That is something, though, to keep in mind on the biosecurity end of things. Putting horses in the same turnout And I can't tell you how often KHP cleans those round pens, if ever. And also keep in mind that they are just round pens. Like they are not big turnout spaces that your horse is really going to be able to run and kick their heels if that's what they need to do. It is truly just a small round pen. So something to keep in mind, but hand walking, hand grazing, layover facilities are all also some options. You can put, if your horse needs to hang their head out their stall door, they will not be able to touch noses with the horses next to them, just the way that the stalls are set up at the horse park. So you can put a stall guard up if you would like, because they all are all full door stalls. But if your horse has never used a stall guard before, please don't have this be the time that you decide to see if they respect one. If they're going to bust right through it, jump over it, who knows what. Um, let's see. Anything else to add about horses that might not be used to being stalled?
No, besides most of the time we're worried about more than they are. So it usually
Yeah.
has to be a horse that's really having a meltdown. And if that's the case, you can actually ask for the vets to come over and we'll help to try and arrange something for you too. But for the most part, we all talk about it. It's a great thing to keep in mind. And it's actually not super common that horses need you to go to the full lengths to have that done. So if you have a horse you know is a weaver or does all sorts of things, great. That's who we're talking to. The rest of you, you're probably all going to be fine.
Yep. It's a long week too. They're probably going to be tired and happy to be in their stall
Yeah.
and with their buddies. All right. And you talked about this a little bit with packing their feet, but I have a general note here. Don't try a new therapy at the makeover. If your horse has never done MagnaWave, never done chiropractic work, never done, you know, any of those types of things, just in case they're going to have an adverse reaction to it, that's probably not something that you should try on them for the first time ever at the makeover, unless you are completely done with all of your riding. Um, Anything to add there?
No, I think that's a great point.
And then I have drug rules and regulations. We follow the USEF guidelines and rules. So if your horse is on any sort of supplement or any sort of medication that might be on that list, it's linked in the portal. Please take a look at that. Talk with your vet and make sure everything on there, your horse is not on any restricted or prohibited substances, and that you've given them enough of a withdrawal time. If they are on something that's restricted and you need to complete the medication report form, that is in the portal. Please download that and fill it out. Please don't go to USEF and try to fill out their form, because we are not a USEF sanctioned show. We use their guidelines and rules, but we are not a USEF sanctioned show. So if you try to fill out their form for the makeover is not going to populate as an option, or you're just going to submit it to USEF and we're not going to see it. So if you need to report a medication that is within the allowable use, you're going to do that through the portal and upload it through the portal. You can contact us if you have any questions, but most likely my answer is going to be take a look at the USEF rules and guidelines, talk it over with your vet. If both you and your vet still don't know what to do, there is then a contact number and email for USEF. You can contact them directly and say, hey, can you give me some guidance? I'm using this medication. How far out from the show do I need to stop using it? All that good stuff. Anything to add on drug rules and regulations?
Yes, if you have never shown under them before, you need to ask questions about it. And if the question is, will something test, just always assume yes. And there's things that are weird, like lavender. You better read about that one. So it's a very nice booklet that can be found online. I think there's even a question in the Q&A, which I don't think we should address the specific question with those drugs, besides to say, if your horse needs a medication to show, it needs to be one that's within the legal rules by USEF, and you need to have a medication form filled out for that. And you need to be aware of what the recommended times are to give that drug. So if you were tested, you would be within the limits that you need to be. And then realize that those recommended times are based on the average horse's metabolism of those drugs. So I would err on the side of caution and not medicate with anything that was questionable. I would chat with my vet ahead of time, and I would look at the books and stick pretty tight to what I was going to give while at the show.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, I see that question. And like Dr. Reed said, study the USEF rules and guidelines. Talk to your vet about it. I know it can be hard to interpret as a layperson. So talk to your vet about it and see if the medications you are referring to would be allowable, if they're allowable at a certain dose, if they're allowable at a certain withdrawal period. And keep in mind that the withdrawal period can vary. Let's see here. And I will go through these questions and then go back to the rest of my list. This is going back to jogs. If you are the 11th, you are in 11th place and the person does not pass a jog, do you get to move up to the championships? No, because we allow for the person who was in the top 10 to still finish within the top 10 without having to compete in the championships. We do not pull people up. Also, logistically, because of the jogs, we wouldn't be able to have enough time to pull you up and get your horse jogged and all that kind of stuff. So in fairness to the person who made it to the top 10, they will not lose their spot in the top 10. And because of logistics, we will not be able to pull someone up from 11th place. And is there a designated lunging area? There is. It is on the map. Keep in mind that there might be a lot of people lunging over there, depending on the time of day that you go, but there is a lunging pad. All right, so another note I have here, this is kind of going back to the arrival exams. I want you all to keep in mind that our stewards, judges, and officials all reserve the right to pull up a horse that they might think it appears unsound during warm-up or competition. So just because your horse has passed the arrival exam, they're passing the arrival exam at a walk. And also a lot can change within 24 hours, 48 hours, depending on when you're competing. So if you pass the walk, if you pass the arrival exam and a judge or steward sees something, they reserve the right to pull up your horse. That doesn't mean right then and there they get to say, hey, you're done, get out of here. What they're going to do is they're going to contact our ground jury. Our vet's going to come over, our ground jury is going to come over. They're going to evaluate the horse and decide whether or not you're permitted to compete. So please keep that in mind. And again, our stewards, judges, and officials, everyone's here to make sure that you have the best time as possible, as does your horse. We want everyone to be a good representation of the breed, and we want to provide a positive experience for everyone. And we want you to be able to go home with a sound, happy, and healthy horse. So please have patience and kindness for all of our judges and stewards and recognize that they're just looking out in the best interest for everybody. Fun little note here that Dr. Reed brought up last year. We spend so much time talking about how to take care of our horses, and a lot of times we forget to take care of ourselves. So make sure you're hydrating, make sure you're eating, make sure you're paying attention to your own emotions and how that might be impacting your horse. Dr. Reed, as someone who's done the makeover before, do you have any particular tips and tricks people can do for their own self-care?
Yeah, I think bring a little bit of a ground crew to be able to help you from off the saddle if you have that opportunity. And if you're not coming with a ground crew, this is the friendliest horse show on earth. So you could get on the trainer's messages and just say, hey, can someone come with me to my class? Can someone spot me? Can someone walk down there for me? So I think having a support team is really helpful. Even if you're a pro, having someone else warm you up or be down there can certainly be helpful. I think keeping an open mind to a couple of things is that well, how do I say this? Whatever's going to happen is going to happen. So we tend to get really wound up when we get there. And you all know, because you've been riding thoroughbreds for the last 10 to 12 months, or this thoroughbred, that they feed off of what you are putting out there. And so if you find your horse being really tense, really nervous, really worked up, maybe it is because they're flashing back a little bit to racing dames, and maybe it's you. And so you could seek out some guidance to how you can bring yourself down and kind of recenter that. I think bringing electrolytes is huge, and having snacks there and taking some time for yourself and bringing good shoes, as well as realizing that the grass fields do get wet. So if you're going to walk the fields, either be in boots or bring dry socks. And I can't tell you how many people have blisters by the end of the week. If you're going back and forth about whether to rent the golf cart, get the golf cart. If you think you want to bring a bike, bring a bike. There's a lot of walking there. So those are my big hints is they've been giving you feedback for 10 months. So when you get to the show and they're still giving you feedback, you should listen to it.
Awesome. Thank you. Kind of along those lines, as a previous competitor, what's your favorite part of the makeover?
It's actually looking back on it now. Like I'm sitting literally in my office and I'm looking at, I have collages of the 2 times I went to the makeover, and I have actually lost both of those horses since then. But the time that I spent looking back on it and what I achieved with them really has changed my life. So it's the whole process. And with one of them, I did win a fair amount within it, and the other one I did not. And I'm more proud of the one I did not with. So it's just the whole thing that when you look back on it, you're like, man, I did some stuff.
That's awesome. Thank you. And so we know you're going to be working hard all week. Is there anything, food, drink, anything that a competitor can give you at some point throughout the week to help you get through the day?
You can give my vet students kindness and kudos. That's the biggest thing, is to bring them into it. I mean, I'm not above a bribe of Coke Zero and Cheez-Its for momentary things. Like, certainly we're not going to let you pass the exam if you don't need it. But, you know, I do like a Coke Zero and a Cheez-Its, although I'm not supposed to be drinking a lot of Coke Zero. But those would be my, if you want to bribe me into happiness, that's all I can say that I will give you with that bribe. That would be the MO.
It's a kindness bribe. It's not
It's not such a
results
thing.
bribe.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a keep Dr. Reed happy bribe. All right. And let's see. One more note that I have that I meant to touch on earlier is microchips. Dr. Reed talked about it a little bit already. We've sent you guys out countless reminders. This is me pleading with you all. If you've just gone off of, oh, hey, on my horse's Jockey Club papers, they had the little sticker of the microchip number, so I just reported that number to you all, and you've not physically taken a scanner to your horse and looked for their microchip, go order a microchip scanner off of Amazon and scan your horse now and make sure you can find it. If you can't find it, try another scanner. If you still can't find it, contact us and make sure we're aware ahead of time that there might be some issues with finding the microchip. That way we can also help get you set up for potentially needing to fill out a duplicate microchip form with the Jockey Club. It's not an easy process. We're happy to help you all, but like, please get ahead of it now. I know we've had some competitors get very panicked in the past when it takes 3 different microchip readers looking for their horse's microchip. So just figure out ahead of time if that might be your horse so that you know what to expect and so that we know what to expect. And then my last question for you, Dr. Reed, is why do we have an arrival exam?
Oh, yeah. Because we want to represent the best of the best. And we're trying to show the world that the myths about the thoroughbred are wrong, that they are not always skinny and they're not always hard to come along. And so the biggest part is we are putting our best foot forward to continue to represent the breed in a positive way. And we are allowing ourselves to have the opportunity to show the rest of the horse show world what can be done when we create a standard.
Awesome. Thank you. All right, I'm gonna open the floor just for a minute or two if anyone has any questions they'd like to ask. If you are not comfortable asking your question in the Q&A, you can always email at secretary@therp.org. If it's something vet related, I will likely consult with Dr. Reed on it, because as stated, I am not a vet. But if it's just a question about the process, that's something I can certainly answer for you. But please feel free to email me, secretary@therp.org. I'm happy to help you all. If you have any questions you would like to put in the Q&A chat, now is the time. Get those in there. Otherwise, it's getting late, and I'm sure all of us would love to wrap up our night. So I'm going to let that sit for a minute. But overall, Dr. Reed, I just want to say thank you for joining me tonight and helping us prep our competitors for what will hopefully be a wonderful, wonderful another makeover. And thank you for everything you've done for the Retired Racehorse Project.
Yeah, I am so excited about how many vet teams we have this year.
Yeah.
Should be good.
I'm very excited too, and excited to meet all the new vet students. It's always great to have them.
Yeah, they are an excited bunch by the number of emails I'm getting every day.
All right, awesome. Well, I don't see any questions in the Q&A. Meg Phillips did send her thank you and says thank you for bringing the vet students. So great for them and for us to get to experience this. So thank you, Meg, for your kind words as well. Thank you all for joining us tonight. And hopefully I will see you on Thursday for our Help I'm Panicking 11 days to the makeover webinar. So that will get you
I
really
hope
tied up, all loose ends. So
I
please
hope there's
join
no
us.
one in that. They're all going to be so calm and focused. It's fine.
Or that.
Yeah,
That's too.
or that
Maybe
too.
you know everything and you don't even need to be there. But I would suggest being there.
Great point. Great
That
point.
webinar tends to get pretty unhinged and entertaining. So
Okay, I can't wait. Maybe I'll join.
all right. Thank you. Have
Okay,
a good
thank you.
night.
Bye, guys.
Bye.